Tonight we'll talk. First, we're going to talk this hour about intro to product teams and what it takes for a successful team to be assembled and to function. And then second half we'll talk about product cycles, so you'll get a good understanding of how we're going to structure our development. So some of it will be redundant to things you heard last night, and then the second hour tonight might be redundant to things you heard the first hour and last night. But that's the point. We're trying to, to revisit core ideas so that they permeate and that they resonate and that they sink in. So you will hear a lot of common themes. That's sometimes I feel like a broken record, but preaching the fundamentals, preaching the truth, like any good preacher. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, let's roll on. So again, as we did last night too, I mean, we do have the thread open, but you can come off mute. I like interaction, although I do have the thread here if you would rather type. In one sentence, what's your favorite tech product and why? Many of you want to respond to this. I'm curious to hear what your favorite products are and why. Very succinctly. You can either speak it or write it. Come on. I know my microphone's not broke, right?
No, you're good, FJ.
Okay. Apache, Google Home. Why are some of these things your favorite? What is it about it? Christopher, that's great. Excel. See, you gave me a reason. Generated jobs and money. Yeah, the smartphone. Boy, when the iPhone came out in 2008, I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe the hype. Because Apple was really high on their horse, but good Lord, did that change everything? Yeah, Zoom. I mean, unbelievable what that can do. The fact we're all here from all over the country, all over the globe. It's pretty spectacular. 20 years ago, we would have thought that was Star Trek. Yeah, products, technological services, whatever you've got. Tech products. Video game controllers. Amazon Prime. Banking apps. Yeah, Netflix. Netflix was a huge one, I mean, they made a big. This is like their third big splash. They came out, and we would all get these scratched discs in the mail, and we'd be lucky to get through a movie without it skipping. And we thought that was great, And now then it became streaming, and now it's original content. Amazing company. Spotify, that's another great one. Good. So we've all got ideas of what we like, and the important thing is, why do we like them? What is it about it that appeals to us? Because that will come out in your development efforts. the things you like, seep into your into your creative efforts. And there will be things that you're going to try to replicate, even though consciously you're not even sure you're setting out to do that. So let's look at a case study. Airbnb. This is an interesting case study. I've given this lecture before, but I haven't given the updated one, and the updated one is this case study added. And so I looked at Airbnb and looked at their history, and it's really an incredible company. I mean, it really is. So how did they get where they are today? So it's a $10 billion company today, and in 2007 the company didn't even exist. The interesting thing is before they ever raised a dollar, and I think their first money that they've raised was 2009, and it was $20,000 in funding. But in 2007, they actually built their product. The founders built the product, and it took them, I think it was 9 months to MVP. So they went from an idea, they rented out air mattresses in their apartment to cover expenses to go to a trade show because they were in the Bay Area and they couldn't afford to go and stay at this conference they were going to, and then that gave them the idea. And rather than say, oh, we're gonna raise $1 billion and build a product, or we're going to design the ultimate product, they were way ahead of their time in the sense that they built a product. I mean, they didn't go raise money to build it. They had the talent in web development to build an MVP. Is it the Airbnb that we see today? Absolutely not. It was primitive. It was base functionality, but it got the job done. And lo and behold, some people signed up and used it. And if 3 months go by and more people are using it, it's growing organically. They've got some traction, and then as always is the case, then all of the funding comes knocking on your door versus you going out knocking on doors to try to raise funding. It's like so many startups I see are like, we're going to raise money and then we're going to worry about the product. There's just you are all in this prime position of being developers. If you have great ideas, you can build an early an MVP of any good idea, and that's going to put you so far ahead of so many startups that just spin their wheels doing the pitch, the pitch funding route. So how did they get there? Well, I'll show you. Speaking of pitch decks, I'll show you. I will show you their pitch deck. Airbnb. It's really straightforward. It's so clean. It's you can see why they why they were the darlings of Silicon Valley for a while, and they raised a lot of money, but long after the product was built. Their problem is very clearly defined. Their problem: price is an important concern for customers booking travel online. Hotels leave you disconnected from the city and its culture. No easy way exists to book a room with a local or become a host. So We talked last night about how great products solve a problem. This was the problem that Airbnb from day one to today uh, are setting out to solve. So that their mission is clear, their vision is aligned. Uh, if you have a problem, what's your solution going to be? Very clearly stated, a web platform where users can rent out their space to host travelers to. Save money, make money, share culture. Clean message, clear solution to the problem. They were able in their early phase of MVP, post MVP release to validate their market. They they had data early, and they were able to prove that they had metrics that backed up their their vision statement. So that's one thing we'll talk a little bit about tonight is when we do our product release cycles, part of that is going to be validating that release, and we'll do that through um, through actual users, actual customers using your product in its various release builds, and validating that release through through observation or data collection for people using your app. So validation is an important word, but you're going to hear a lot, and this pitch deck touches upon it. It's one thing to say we're going to do X, Y, and Z. It's another to say we've done it and here's the data. They were very clear about what their market size was. What does this indicate? Research, good research. We talked last night about research you're going to be doing in the product vision stage. They went out and they knew what the market size was, and they did that through research of the marketplace, customer research, competitive research. So, and the vision of the product from day one to now is consistent. It's easy to use. It's elegant, simple, great onboarding, search by city, review listings, book it. They never really deviated. They've never gotten too far away from that core vision, core mission. They're not they're not trying to build properties. They're not building buildings. They're true to their mission. And when you're true to your mission, the product can sort of evolve organically, and they're never they've never really blown the site apart and rebuilt it from rubble. It's been a natural, steady progression. And if you look at the product today versus the product 3 years ago, it probably looks like they blew it to rubble and started over, but they didn't. Those little incremental releases, those incremental improvements over time will always give the illusion of, oh, they've completely redone the product, but they haven't. They've expanded it exponentially and steadily, and they've they've improved it, is what they've done, but they've never reinvented it. And that's proof that they had a really, really strong foundation. Their business model was very clear and very simple. They're taking a 10% commission on each transaction. Their market adoption was smart. Strategic partnerships, Craigslist, and and advertising, at major events. Um, and they knew their competition. We talked last night about competitive research. They knew from day one who they were up against, what they were up against, and how they could differentiate. Their competitive advantages. We talked last night about not reinventing the wheel, not trying to conquer if a mature product that's been in the marketplace a decade, but coming to the table with features that are unique. And I think that Airbnb did a great job from day one of having some of these unique competitive advantages that differentiated them and set them apart. So they touched upon that in their deck, and that was it. And 11 slides, and it tells the entire story of that product. And it's kind of amazing how simple a good idea, well executed, can be communicated. So I think it's really a testament to to a great product and a great team. So is someone drawing on my deck? Or is that me drawing on my deck? No.
I'm not sure.
Interesting. Well, let's hope the Russians aren't hacking me. Okay, so
I'll take care of it.
yeah. Just quickly going over that, what do you think Airbnb did right? Just kind of going over that history. Can you tell me a couple of things that you observed from a product development standpoint, since we're all developers? They started small, correct? Allow their users to provide. Yes. Simple plan, simple product, simple execution. Great. You're getting the point. They understood their product. They were first to market. These are excellent. These are all excellent comments. Yes. From a perspective of what we've been talking about last night, what we're talking about tonight, they executed outstanding research in the marketplace, the opportunity. They created a plan up front to get to market as quickly as possible. They couldn't have got to MVP in 9 months had they not had a really solid plan for development, because there were only 3 of them. So it tells you what a good plan, a good plan against a great idea can be executed quickly. But you can trust they weren't they weren't just sitting there coding from second one. They did planning to get to a result that quickly. they prepared, and they produced. Obviously it's a big effort with that few number of people to get a product out there and get people using it. So um, I think a lot of the things that we're going to work toward in our product vision documents, they are executed in the Airbnb story. So why aren't you coding yet? We talked about this last night, and I'll repeat it. We're not coding yet because we're planning. We're planning up front. We're establishing our teams. We're getting to know each other. We're getting our ideas out. We're learning to work together, and we're going to align our vision. And if we were coding out of the gate, this is a great image that are in a lot of Lambda decks. You're swinging blindly. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That's a great motto to keep in mind as we're going through labs. Invest this time in planning up front. Everyone get on the same page, agree what the product is and what it's not. Learn what you need to do. I mean, that's competitive research, technical research. Learn what you need to do to get the job done, and poke holes in it and vet it. It's not enough to just say that's a great idea. You've got to look for where the pitfalls are, because they are there. If you will encounter pitfalls, I guarantee you. So if you can get out ahead of them, if you can be aware of where they potentially are, even though you can't identify them all out of the gate, you'll it won't take you by surprise, and you won't go down the rabbit hole. And really, planning means aim, ready, aim, fire. Right? We don't fire and aim. We're going to lose the war. You got to take the time and plan. And the easiest answer to why we're not coding yet, because code isn't what's going to make your team successful or your product successful. It's the teamwork that will. I've been now I think this is the 5th cohort I've been in. The products that are the best in labs have the best teams, and teams meaning teamwork, team collaboration, team communication, a shared sense of humor, a good balance. When everybody's going to have times when they freak out and somebody overwrites someone's code, or things get blown up, and it's how the team balances each other. When someone freaks out, who can be the steady hand, who can be the sense of humor in the room. All of these things are hallmarks of like a good team. I mean, you're there for each other. You don't you pull each other up. You encourage each other to participate, communicate. When egos appear, or tempers appear, you work through it as a team. You don't go around each other. You don't. It's those teams. I mean, that's not every team can't doesn't have that chemistry. There are many teams in my life that have been dysfunctional, but the ones that are that we succeeded doing something that didn't seem possible. It was good teamwork. It was fun. It was fun to be in a room with these people. It was stressful, but we always maintained our sense of humor. We when someone had a bad day, another person would either, try to smooth it over or carry the load that day. Um, really work toward building that team chemistry, because I can, the best products in these cohorts I've worked with are the teams that I can see have an easy relationship. You can see it in their Slack channel. You can see it the way they message each other. You can see it in their check-ins and their stand-ups. It's a healthy communication between the members of the team. So really, when you get together in your groups, work toward that. It's not just lip service. It's really true. So remember, when you get assigned your product in your team, what problem are you trying to solve? What solutions will you employ to solve it? And then how will you build those solutions, in an incremental, steady progression? That's it. We talked last night. I'm saying it tonight. I'll say it, the entire time we're doing this. This is the key to a win here in labs. Be problem solving, project. Always put that problem first. So what tools do we have available at our disposal? Well, in labs, we're going to be practicing agile development. A lot of you probably have experience in agile development. Some of you may not, but it's a good practice for software development and for getting to a minimal viable product and MVP as quickly as possible. It's it's the best approach to get to a timely result. And there are 6 major phases of agile development. There's the requirements phase. Okay, what are we setting out to what are we setting out to build based on the problem we're trying to solve? Being very clear about that. What is it we're trying to do? What aren't we trying to do? Part 2 of the agile development cycle is planning, which we've talked extensively about now. This is the crux of the product vision document, the PVD, and the release canvases we'll get into next week, which will be the template and the design for each of your feature releases. So an overabundance of upfront planning. Third is design. Okay, now we've got our plan down. Now, how are we going to present this? How are we going to package these features? What's it going to look and feel like? How are we going to onboard our audience in a way that doesn't create friction or barriers? That's our design. That's our kind of last phase of pre-production before we begin developing and coding. We're going to think through all of the elements of how we're going to present the solutions to our problem. And then the 4th phase is development itself. We're going to go into our release canvas sprints. And as I said, we're going to all plan for 3 canvases. When we're going to do, all teams are going to do 3 release canvas template, documentation for 3. You're going to need to complete 2 to pass labs. And once we're in that cycle, all of this sort of documentation and the heavy lift of it all goes away, you know, and we're actually creating the product. And as we pivot and change things and you know, realize some of our assumptions aren't um, you know, aren't can't be validated, we can go back and shift our plan in the next in the subsequent release canvases, and we'll go back and we'll touch up our documentation. But the heavy lift of documentation and requirements and planning all comes in these you know, in these first two sprints, in this first month of labs. When we have our release canvas, our release canvas completed, we're going to release it. That's the fifth stage of agile development. We release it. What does that mean? That means we're going to put it into the hands of users, and we are going to get feedback. You know, maybe we will be able to see some analytics on the back end. Maybe we will interview our users, and maybe we'll have focus tests where we observe them using the product. We can. There's a variety of ways you can validate whether your release is meeting the objectives of that release canvas plan. So and really, it's, you know, you've got to think from that very first release canvas that we're always validating our execution through user testing. I mean, we're putting this in customers' hands. Maybe they're not paying customers. Maybe they're you know, they're testers that we all assemble, but they're customers. They're users. We're going to watch real people use your product from the earliest stages, because that's how we'll determine whether we're on track, whether we're meeting our objectives. And what if we aren't? And then we're going to, you know, we're going to steer the ship left or right to get it on course. And we can tweak our next canvas release to, you know, to address whatever issues, to double down on things that we think are working even better than we anticipated. So while you're going to plan, release canvases before you develop, before the cycle, the sprint cycles for that canvas begin, you know, a release canvas. Let's say we've, you know, I said we're gonna plan for 3 release canvases in our pre-production. We're only developing for canvas 1 once we start our development. 2 and 3 are just, you know, are there as part of the plan. When we finish our first release, we get it in the hands of users. We don't just, you know, march into canvas 2 because that was something we signed off on as part of our pre-production and part of our planning and design. You will have an opportunity to adjust release canvas 2 before you before the green light's thrown and you pull the trigger and begin developing for it. You'll always have that opportunity to adjust your canvas before you execute on it. So, you know, you can't plan everything up front and have it be bulletproof. So you'll have this opportunity to adjust and tweak before you begin the next cycle. And the last phase is tracking and monitoring, and that's really what we're talking about with the data, the analytics, and user, you know, watching user testing to see if your product is meeting its objectives. And then, you know, we circle back around. Each release canvas is kind of another cycle of development. So that's getting a little ahead of the second lecture we're doing tonight, but that's the idea of agile development. It is agile. It is, you know, it gives you room to for the product to sort of it what it does is you have plans, you have intelligent planning up front, but you have flexibility to adjust your plan during execution. So right now we're this first month of labs, we're going to be in this green part of the wheel, planning, designing, and then developing will be, once that second month begins, we'll be moving from number 4 in the wheel to 5 and 6 and back around. Any questions about agile development? Okay, we'll just go on. You can stop me if you have questions. You can always come off mute and ask. So what are roles in development roles in labs? As I said last night, this is the first cohort where we, in part-time labs, where we have UX and DS and mobile students. It has been all web up to this point. And, sometimes a web team would have someone with graphic design skills. And so part of the UX would kind of be handled. And those projects, we're lucky to have someone like that, and they look good. They function well. Sometimes there were people on teams that did have some mobile development experience, so you'd see responsive designs. So, but we've never had this kind of cross discipline team, cross-functional teams. So let's talk about the UX students that are part of labs. The projects that UX students are a part of, their roles on the teams are so they're definitely, UX students are going to lead the user research and customer research as part of our PVD process. That doesn't mean they're going to do it all. It means they're going to direct it. That's a key role of the user experience skill set on a cross-functional team. So the UX students will head up the research effort. And if the team is doing aspects of research, the UX person on the team will be the lead for that. So that's understanding the user perspectives and competitive research and all of those aspects that are going to drive the the design and styling of a product. User experience team members on cross-functional teams will participate in communication with the project stakeholder. And I think for the most part, it will be myself and Jake as the stakeholders for these projects. Full-time has, a variety of different stakeholders, but in part-time, it's the two of us. So user experience team members will drive the wireframing process as part of the user design. So teams, we've always encouraged teams to wireframe as part of their as part of their release canvas efforts. And you'll see when we get into the analyzing that template, there are places where you can upload your wireframes and maintain them. But the UX team members that are on the cross-functional teams will be in charge of those wireframing and design efforts. They will test and validate their designs before development. I think Figma, and I use Marvel app when I wireframe. Yeah, we have the ability to click through wireframes now, as if it were a prototype. It's just really great. And I'm sure our UX students are already doing those things, but um, it'll be up to them to test and validate the design before development begins, to try to save time and effort, to get that validation in place so that time isn't lost once coding begins. And ultimately, the UX students will create and own the design system, and that's basically the style guide for the product. If you're not a UX student, it's all of the elements of visual elements, and the layout and the fonts and color schemes and color palettes, and all involved are sort of pulled together into what's called the design system. So when you have your UX team members, you will know what their roles and responsibilities are, and we're clear up front about the aspects that they're in control of on the team. So data science, what are data science students? Now that we have them in labs, what are their roles on the team? Well, they'll collaborate with the UX and web and mobile developers to understand the data that's needed for this application. What data do they need to work with to pull into this app to solve this problem? And I'm sure that the data science students will be asking a lot of questions of their team members to fully understand the data need. They'll properly clean and analyze the data. They will get the data ready for the web development efforts, and collaborating with the web developers. What is the best way to pull that data in? They'll work with. I'm sure they'll work closely with the UX designers to visualize how's that data going to be visualized, and they'll build predictive modeling tools. So that is the role of the data science members of the team. And the web developers, well, that's we all pretty much understand the role of the web developer here. Collaborate with UX to understand the technical limitations. Communicate with data science on APIs, data format, and availability, and understanding what the web developer's role on the team is. Is it front end? Is it back end? And I think the best efforts we in labs are always think about back end first, and to front end, as opposed to front end to back end. Think focusing early efforts on that back end will yield the best results, historically speaking, in labs. And mobile, collaborate with UX on possibilities, vision, and user flows. Help define what's possible and what's limiting technically. That's important, because a website and an app or a mobile app are not the same thing. Although they can look a lot similar, they are not the same thing. And getting user feedback early and often. I mean, this small screen is it takes real skill to from a UX perspective and from a mobile development perspective, to pull all of that together to make it easy and accessible to use, and just fonts and readability and button size and all of these things are so important. And it's really coming up with if this is a cross-functional team and it's mobile and web, it's that responsive approach, so that assets don't need to be created twice. How can we build this so that it's responsive from day one? So, what is a successful product team example here at Labs? Well, is a recent one. Last night, Jake brought up a team, I think it was Labs 19, and they actually completed 8 release canvases, which is a record by far. Most, you have to pass. You have to have 2 release canvases to pass. A lot of times there will be 3. I've never seen more than 3 in the cohorts I've worked with in part-time. So eight's a serious development achievement. So these are a couple new slides that I really haven't read much yet, but they asked this team with the 8 releases, what do you think you did well that set you apart to deliver so much? And I'm going to post this deck later, and you can read this. I don't want to read this whole slide to you. I'll just read a few things. A few thoughts. Collective decision-making around the tech stack, especially when it required everyone to learn something new. Taking time to learn GraphQL and implementation before jumping into code. Encourage everyone to work on the features they wanted to work on. Not being afraid to say we don't get something or that we are stuck on something. Everyone was motivated to learn and become better developers. We didn't let any errors get in the way of our product vision. Once core functionality was built out, the first 2 release canvases or so, we were able to have different sub-teams tackling different features based on interest. Becoming actual friends with our group. Meeting up in person to code and do random things. Setting our personal standards obnoxiously high. Being willing to give your input on anything. Playing games, watching movies online with each other. Being extremely competitive in a good way. And, there's a lot of great advice on this slide. And I encourage you all to download this deck later tonight when it gets posted and spend some time looking at this. I've enjoyed looking at it. And what we also asked those developers, what can you tell future labs cohorts to know ahead of time so they can mimic your results? I'll just pull a few random ones here. Have a very clear Git flow process and show up. Being humble enough to admit you don't understand something and need help or direction. If a project is beyond your capabilities, admit it and be willing to pass it off to others. Constant communication about what everyone is working on. There should never be a time anyone doesn't know what someone else is working on. Constant dialogue with UX, collective decision making, and being willing to let an idea go. Just have fun with it. We progressed faster because we had fun learning more with each other versus putting pressure that we needed to learn something. So really cool, spend some time absorbing these post-mortem lessons. I think there's great advice here for all of you and great inspiration. There's the bar, it's like, a sports record or something. Eight seems like, man, I don't know if that record will be broken. I hope it is, and I hope it is in this cohort. So I thought we would have a little breakout session like we did last night. We'll keep it relatively brief. So the idea here is you choose a product. Your group chooses a product that they like, and what. Think about like Netflix. Okay, Netflix, improve recommendation features. Spotify, improve generated playlists. Amazon, improve suggested products. Um, those would be objectives that a a Netflix, Spotify, or Amazon would always have at their forefront. I mean, this is what they do, right? So Amazon's always going to be looking to improve the suggested products that come your way. Netflix is always going to try to improve recommendation features. So look at choose a product and look at it. And think about it in terms of what we talked about with UX developers, with web developers, with DS developers, with mobile developers. What step would each role take to really explore the objective for the product that you choose? What if you're Netflix? What's the importance of UX's role in that objective of improving recommendation features? That's the idea here, is to look at it, sort of look at a product, look at its objective, and then look at it across these different disciplines. And by doing that, I think you'll understand the disciplines a little better, and you'll see that that these disciplines are all critically important to come together and gel to meet an objective. So that's the idea of this breakout session. Why don't we break out for let's say 15 minutes?
Cool.
Okay, and we'll come back.
All right, sending out the links right now.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. If for some reason somebody doesn't see the little pop-up that comes above Zoom, look for the breakout rooms button above the Zoom bar.
Can I get put in a different room? I was by myself.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, Corey. Yeah, let me get that. Let me get you moved over.
Thank you.
Yeah. What room were you in?
I was 19.
Okay. Let's see here.
By the way, I love that attitude, Corey. You could have ghosted in there by yourself.
I don't have time for ghosting. I need to learn stuff.
Right on, Corey. If you don't see the link pop up, You can click the breakout rooms button on the bottom of your Zoom bar. Let me know
Got
if
it.
that,
Thank you.
you got it? Cool. Let's see here.
I think the UX students are coming back.
Oh, okay, cool. Right on. That explains that.
Yeah, you guys.
2 minutes overtime, so.
You guys are doing great. Hey, FJ. How would you, what was the prompt that we had left the groups?
Sorry, what?
What was the prompt? What are they, what problem are they working on right now?
They're working on choose a product, a tech product that they like as a group. And what they're doing is, you know, they're what's the primary objective of that app, and then how the UX, web, DS, and mobile all play into the solving that objective. You know, so if you look at Netflix, or let's look at Amazon. You know, what's their primary objective? Improve suggested products.
Okay.
So how does UX, what importance does UX play in that? What importance does web, DS, and mobile play in that?
Cool.
Hey, for all the UX students who are just coming back, you should be able to join a breakout room with the join breakout room button down in the Zoom bar. They are just collaborating.
It says, oh, there we go. It says, please wait to be assigned, but the moment you just finished speaking, it popped up.
Yeah, let me know if you don't have a link.
Cool, thanks.
Yep.
Should auto assign them, right?
It does the first time, but for people that join the group afterwards, it doesn't.
Fair enough.
Hey, Frank, you're recording actually. So.
Oh, good call. Thanks. There you go.
Okay, welcome back, everybody.
That was pretty cool.
So, yeah, come off mute. Tell me what you and your team worked on. The idea here was look at a tech product, hone in on what their primary objective is, and then how do the disciplines of web development, UX design, and UI, DS, and mobile all play a role in that in delivering that objective.
All right, I'll hop in. My team, we kind of went back and forth between we started talking about Amazon, we started talking about Pandora, when like Pandora was still in beta, and then we just nailed it with Netflix, because we figured like Netflix as a tech product is crazy amazing. You know, their UX is amazing because they offer great user experience. You know, you can take Netflix, you can have multiple silos for, you know, yourself, your spouse, your kids. So that's your UX. They did all of the planning. They figured out how to route everything. Then you have your data science, which, let's face it, their data science is amazing because they're always suggesting good stuff for us to watch. My husband is big into crazy 80 movies. I'm not a fan. I like the 90s and 2000s myself. So if you go into his silo, it's all 80s movies. If my daughter logs into her account, it's all kids movies. And it's like she finds stuff that I've never even heard of that she's like a big fan of. Like there's some fairy thing that she's watching right now that I've never heard of. You know, me personally, I like action and adventure and drama and English, like British movies. So that's what my streams are filled with. So for the data scientists to be able to aggregate all of that data and write an algorithm to really truly target each user independently, not just across the board, but independently, is phenomenal. That's an excellent example of data science. And then their front end for web and television and mobile, both iOS and Android, you get the same experience across the board. And I've done web development and I've done mobile development for iOS and Android, and I know how difficult that is to have a seamless experience across the board. So for at least my team, we kind of decided that Netflix was the supreme leader of all. They're going to take down Amazon and everything because they have a much better product, and this is why, and that's how everything all works together. I see one of my teammates like sitting there laughing and smiling.
That's great analysis. And
Thank you.
You know that you got the point that, you know, really takes a team of skills to you know, to pull off a product that well-rounded. Any other teams have a product they'd like to share?
Yeah, I'll talk about Netflix. We kind of just settled on Netflix because it was the first one on the list. And what we did was we looked at like how the algorithm actually pulls data. So there's a website, there's like an article on Medium that kind of breaks down like how they're making their recommendations. And what we discovered was that it was very difficult to break it. Like we're trying to find a way to maybe improve it. But as we were discussing, just as Jennifer said, like I have a profile, my wife has a profile, my kids have a profile, and all of our profiles are different. And the algorithm is basically baked that way to make it that way. It seems like what they're doing is they're pulling data, like they have like shows fit within a subset of categories, and they're using some sort of like overlapping like Venn diagram sort of method to sort of like make those suggestions. One of the interesting things that we found was that they're actually not filtering the top suggestions to the first row that you get, but actually the second row, which I think is interesting because we saw like you're most likely to watch movies or shows that are on the second row of the search results or the recommendation results. And I think we thought that has to do with like with something like somehow with like user experience, how users are actually looking at the screen and like where your eyes land when you're actually on their interface.
Interesting.
So but it seems like their algorithm is pretty robust. We're trying to find a way to break it. One of the things that we thought of also was that there's no way to really make any user input as to the types of shows that you want to watch, or like the aside from like when you first sign up or you set up your profile, like your user input is clicking on a show to watch. And then they use that to determine whether or not you're actually going to get a recommendation for another show of that type. But there's no way to like a show, or no easy way to like a show. I think there is a way, but it's kind of hidden, buried in the UI. So Just watching the show, and I guess the number of hours you watch a show determines the type of recommendations that you get. And so I think it's a pretty robust algorithm, based on 15 minutes of studying something that's been successful for 10 years or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty interesting how they've done it. So we learned a
Okay.
lot.
Thanks. Anyone do a product other than Netflix?
I do. So I just want to be clear about the question, just because I guessed the beginning coming from a different lecture. So are we just talking about really good streaming platforms?
No, it's a tech product, and really looking at pick a tech product. What is their core objective that they're
Word.
and then how do these disciplines that we have on our teams affect that objectives?
So just to answer that question, so coming off the back of the whole cable cutters movement, I'm a millennial. And the reason why I use YouTube is just because it's very good at keeping my attention. The purpose of the app, I would say, is to keep you on the site, A feature I really like about YouTube is that it's kind of advanced the way that we kind of channel surf. So we're on YouTube, right? The little video player, it will slide down to the corner, allowing you to view other videos, other related, et cetera, et cetera. You can subscribe to certain things, so I can build my own channels. That's pretty much all I really have. That's just why I like using that app.
Okay, great. Well, good. I hope, for the sake of time, I want to move forward, but I hope that you got to meet some people tonight who are new, and you got to collaborate and come up with some food for thought. So we'll wrap up this slide deck. How do we succeed here at Labs? Very straightforward. We win as a team. We work together as a team. We win as a team, and we release at least 2 successful product cycles as a team. That's it. Great product teams. They always work towards a deadline. They ruthlessly prioritize. They prioritize everything, their objectives and their requirements, and they're always evaluating and prioritizing. That's just a fundamental of smart software development. They work in small teams. The best efforts that I've experienced in my career have been with remarkably small teams. That's how you get an immense amount of work done quickly in the early stages of a product. I just think that this kind of 6 to 8 to 10 person team is perfect for the march from concept to MVP. Great teams collaborate intensely. They ship to real users. They're not testing themselves and validating for themselves. They're watching real people use their products. Great teams love to ship products. They love to develop products, and it shows. And great teams are diverse. And that's just not diverse in the sense of, color of skin and area of the map that you come from. It really means being open to all ideas and being respectful of each other and each other's ideas, and creating a welcoming environment. Okay. Any questions? Or what we could do is I'll roll into the next deck, which should go very quickly because we've covered everything in it already. And then maybe we can have a final Q&A that would encompass all of this rather than to break here. So I know everybody might want to, take a little break, but why don't we just try to hang in? If you need to get up and stretch or use the restroom or whatever it is, go ahead and come right back. But let's hang in and let's try to finish up. And then give you all a little time for questions. So okay, let me close that one and bring up the next one. Okay, product cycle introduction. And I think you guys could probably almost give this lecture, mini lecture now, because you've heard everything in this already. But it's good. It's a good summary for the evening. We're gonna touch upon what we've learned in the last 2 nights about what the product vision document is, what release canvases are, and the importance of research in our pre-production and cycle. So last night was an intro to the product vision document, and while I didn't show you the release canvas template, that's for next week. I did touch upon what it is and its role. The product vision document is the large, is kind of the large overarching vision of the product, of what it is, what the key problems are, what the key objectives are, and then the release canvases are for these next 2 or 3 sprints. This is what we're making. That's the difference. We got our overarching Bible, and then we've got our actual architectural specification that says in the next 2 weeks we're building this. That's the differentiation to make. And as part of that, as part of both of these, product vision document and release canvas, you are going to have research. So that's why research is something you're just going to be doing throughout the course of this labs project. It's there's always a need to learn new things, to find new information. So research is going to be part of this. In summary, the product vision document, again, it's our, think of it as the in TV you have when TV shows are created, they have it's called the show Bible. Product vision document is your show Bible. And what we're going to do is be disciplined developers in the sense of updating it, keeping it accurate. All of the products we're building, most of these greenfields can potentially live on in future cohorts. So we're going to be great, founding fathers, founding mothers of products by respecting the developers that are coming down the road, by keeping our documentation up to date, clear, accurate, and tidy. Product cycle. What do I mean by product cycle? Delivery of product doesn't happen in one big chunk. It's iterative, and it happens over time, over cycles. Just like I was talking about Airbnb tonight. They didn't create what's there today over those first 8 months. They created a very small, meager version. what we see today. But the consistent thing is the the objective and the solution to the problem. That remains consistent. A product cycle, again, will be defined by our release canvas. The release canvas will document what we are going to build as part of our product cycle. Product cycles can take 1 week or 3 weeks. We don't say that you need to have a release product cycle done every sprint, which is 2 weeks. You may, in the early stages, you may, have a set of features that you're going after that are going to take 2 sprints or a sprint and a half. Or 3 sprints, So we're not telling you how to structure your product cycles. We're just telling you what the requirement is at the end, and it's completing 2 of them. What I would, I'll just throw this in because I think it's worth mentioning. I would go my recommendation to all the teams are, when you're doing your first product cycle, your first release canvas, be careful you're not overextending. Go for a solid win as a team. You don't need to build half the product in product cycle 1. Go get a win under your belts. And then begin to stretch and challenge yourselves in 2, release canvas 2 and 3. But don't overextend yourselves early. It can tax a team. So go for an early solid win and build from there. Not that your cycles should be easy; they shouldn't be, but they should get progressively more challenging. Don't make your first one the most challenging, I guess is my advice. I've seen that backfire too many times. So we're all clear. We need 2 to pass. Yeah, the release canvas again. To summarize what it is, it's your team's plan for a product cycle, and that product cycle is a feature set. So we plan, we create a release canvas, we develop that feature set, we develop that in that product cycle, we put it in the hands of users, we validate it, you meet with, each team will meet with Jake and myself and the team and section leads. We'll sign off on it. We'll look at your plan for your next product cycle, your next release canvas. 2 thumbs up, and you'll be off developing again. So that's the cycle. When you finish a product cycle, when your release canvas objectives are met, you'll present it to us. We'll approve it. We'll review your next release canvas, and then you're off to the races. So think about it like this. The product as a whole is represented by that product vision document. Features are built during a product cycle, and the feature set is represented by the release canvas. There we go. Sorry. That's a good slide to reference back to as you're getting this nomenclature down. In a week or 2, this will all be just ingrained. PVD and release canvas and product cycle. But I'll post this deck. Refer, you might want to print this page and tack it up on your wall until all of this becomes second nature. So we talked about how excellent teams ruthlessly prioritize. It's an important part of our planning. We're going to explore the problem we're going to try to solve. We're going to design our best solutions to solve that problem. We're going to attempt to solve those problems by creating and shipping features, and then we're going to measure the impact of our efforts. Watching real users use the product, and we will see if our product vision document holds up. I mean, were our assumptions correct, or do we need to go in and revise them based on evidence and in customer testing? So let's just quickly review what our experience is going to be. 16 weeks, our labs experience. Week 1 and 2, onboarding sessions like tonight, and team formation, project assignments, getting to know one another, beginning to work and gel as a team. Weeks 2 through 4 are going to be our product cycle planning, understanding our product users, doing our user research, organizing our objectives, deep diving into solutions. Weeks 5 through 16 are going to be our product development. These are our cycle planning and our product cycle development, shipping these feature sets, getting feedback from users, and getting through as many product cycles as we can, challenging ourselves, but making sure our quality bar is always high. What are our deliverables in this first month? The product vision doc. We will, Jake and I will be approving those as you reach the end of that milestone. You're going to be getting your production ready development environments up, and you're going to be, like I said, you're going to be doing 3 release canvas plans or templates, but you're going to need to deliver 2 of them, but you're going to plan at least 3. What happens if you burn through 3? Then you're going to, as part of the next, you're just going to continue the cycle. You'll create another canvas document template, and then you'll get that approved, and you'll roll into Canvas product cycle 4 and 5 and so on. So, we don't want teams to say, well, we're only going to do the minimum, and we'll do 2, and we'll plan 3, we'll only do 2. Push yourselves to try to take your products as far as you can. And the deliverables during the product development cycles are releases to testers, to customers, to users. So when we get together, when teams are assigned and products are assigned, what are we going to do early and quickly? We're going to on our PVDs, hone in on what we really drilled into last night. The vision of the product. Who are your personas? Who is your customer? And then what are your personas? Your customer research, competitive research, and your architecture plan based on research. So it's really a strong research effort up front, and it's defining that vision and tweaking it until everyone on the team is in alignment and in agreement that this is our product, this is our vision, this is what we're building. So that you don't get 4 sprints in and somebody thought it was one thing, and then the team splits. So focus your early efforts on research. And remember, if there are teams with UX members as part of the cross-functional team, the UX members of the team are the heads of the research efforts. Understand your vision, understand your customers, research your competition, and research your proposed technical architecture so that you can see where the pitfalls might be. I think an early advice for these early days of your research and PVD development, 30 to 60 minutes of your time, you should review the document in progress. Identify research needs, decide how you're going to approach that research plan. Are you going to do pair, you're going to pair together to do research? Are you going to assign research tasks to into individuals? How you structure it is up to you as a team. You just need to clearly communicate it so that no one's stepping on each other's toes or duplicating efforts. Always come back, report together, and make sure that that document is evolving as a group effort. I mean, you may assign parts of the document written by different people, but you got to have that review as a group. You got to watch it grow and evolve and change, and it can't be siloed. And what do we do with the release canvases in 2 weeks? When I go over the release canvases, you'll see the template is, what is our objective for this product cycle? Not for the product as a whole. What are we going to do in this cycle? And maybe this cycle for us is going to be 4 weeks, 3 weeks. What's the problem we're going to try to solve in this, in this cycle, in this 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is? We're not trying to solve all the problems now. We're choosing based on our list of priorities. What are we trying to solve in this cycle? What is the solution to solve that problem? What are we building to solve that problem? And then how are we going to measure whether we succeeded? That's really the heart of the release canvas template. When you get your PVDs, you'll see that the link to those templates are in there. You can always take a peek and see what's coming. But this is it. That's it. It's really it's much shorter than a PVD. A release canvas is only a page or two long, but it's very clear about what you're doing for that cycle, and in focusing in these bite-sized cycles, we're not being overwhelmed by the ambitious large vision of the product as a whole. It's a small focused vision on a specific set of features that solve a very specific problem or problems. Shouldn't be more than a few. So we'll have that session next week. I'll we'll do some brainstorming like we did last night, and we'll walk through, and we'll take our product we worked on last night, the coloring book, and we'll put some release cycles together. So you'll all clearly understand how to do this. Don't worry. Multiple successful feature releases. That's the key. Okay. I think we've covered research. Yes. A large part of our PVD effort is gathering information from customers, potential users. Don't be shy. Go out and get the answers you need to help dictate what product you're going to build. People want to talk. In my experience, people want to talk. You just need to ask them intelligent questions and stress upon them the importance of their involvement in answering it and the role they're playing in helping you build a product that will help their lives, help them solve problems that they have. You'll find that people are eager 90% of the time to help. So hopefully we all understand the product vision document. We understand the importance of research, customer research, technical research, and competitive research. That was the point of the last 2 nights. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to share these decks, of course, in our channel tonight. Who has questions, or are we all clear? You can come off mute, or you can put it in the thread. Crystal, that's good. Crystal clear. How do you all feel about this level of pre-production? Do you feel it like it's overkill as developers? See, I come from the production side of things and more the creative side of products than the coding side. So for me, it's like, it's always something I've felt the importance for. But as developers, I've worked with developers who really don't like it. So, my hope is that you understand the need for it and that you find value in it.
I understand the necessity of planning, and I am in the workforce right now, and we just finished 2 days of planning for our next iteration, our next 10 weeks, and it's 100% necessary to plan your work before you work and minimize rework, but we do plan with something that they call the cone of uncertainty, where the further into the future you start talking about, the less likely it is to be accurate. So we tend to only plan in great detail, like the next week or 2 tops. And then we'll half our capacity and then put something there, and then half that capacity and then put something there, because we don't know what's going to happen between now and then.
That's good. Yeah. That's kind of what we're trying to do here. Your product vision doc is kind of the dreaming, this is what this thing can be as a whole. And then, but, let's put our head in the ice water and say, this is what we're doing the next 2-3 weeks. There was a whole semester on planning and flow when I went to college before they even really went near code. Okay, so some of you have this kind of background.
Yeah, I'm actually excited for the planning portion, which most people would be like, why? But I currently work for a place that does nothing but WordPress development, and we don't ask our clients this. They just send us copy pictures and we post it all together. So we don't even know who we're trying to target and such. So it's like, to have this ahead of time, is going to be amazing. And my previous agency did all of this crazy planning and like would spend 2 weeks with the client. And then it's so weird to go from that intense to not having any direction. So I'm kind of looking forward to being able to take control and whatnot.
Good. That's good. Good attitude and good way to look at it. I think it helps instill some confidence up front too. You know, you can look the thing like today looking at Airbnb and some of you I know weren't able to see those slides. I'll post that slide deck up. But you know, you realize you know how they're you know that they released a product in 8 months. They didn't know if it was going to last 2 months or if it was going to fail or you know. But they got a product out there, and you know, like in my, you know, I told you I'm in the ed tech business and educational gaming, and there was a company called 10 Marks that was really good, right? It's math. My daughter uses it in middle school, and it's this math product. It's not a game, but it's a really good education product. And Amazon bought them for like $90 million, and then in 18 months to shut them down because, you know, Amazon didn't. I don't know why they bought them, but it's sad. But I looked at that product. It's one of the few success cases in ed tech. Ed tech's really tough. You know, trying to make money selling anything into a school is really tough. But I think they spent about 14 iterations of development time, and those aren't cycles. Those are kind of that's probably more than the kind of cycle we're talking about. It was about 4 years of effort, but it was just slow and incremental. And you realize it was how many swings at the plate they got to get it right. And if you do it incrementally and take your feedback, iterate, re-release, you're gonna, you know, you've got an infinitely better chance of succeeding than, you know, let's spend like Planet 3 where I was, you know, let's spend 2 years building something that we think is right, you know, and just roll the dice, you know, crazy. It's that slow incremental development that that is really cool. And if you look at all these products that we use today, they all started that way. So do some product research. It's fun. You know, when you see a product that you love, like look the history of it up. You know, you'll see that it began probably with you know, 6 people or less. Okay, well, I don't want to keep you here. If any other questions, any other comments? All right, I hope tonight helped. I promise I won't say product vision document for at least 48 hours. So, all right, everybody, have a great evening.
Thank you, FJ.
Fire.
Good night.